Welcome to GameThinkTalk Live. I am one of your hosts, Matthew Favai, and today I'm joined by special guest
COZI. You all know me on the Discords. Who knows? Who cares about an intro? How you doing, Matt?
Hey, I'm great. How are you? It's so weird to ask somebody how they're doing. We've just been talking for like 25 minutes because when you do anything on a computer, you always have to deal with all the other crap like, why does this microphone not work today? What's going on here? I guess I better reinstall my RAM or something. Hey, we have Charlie the Lion Guy in here. What is...
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah. COZI, maybe you're looking at the thing as well so you can see the chat. This is nice. Normally I have to look at the chat all by myself. Today we're going to be talking about COZI going to PAX. We can talk about Super Mario Odyssey. Some more came out about EA and Visceral.
Ooh.
What's his name? Mr. Schreier at Kotaku. They do the best games reporting. They're actually finding out information. They contact developers and publishers, and people respond back to them, and then they share it with us. It's quite the thing. Whereas most games journalism just seems to be DLC's coming out today. There you go. That's about it. So, all right, you went to PAX. What was PAX like?
Oh, it was pretty good. I'm sure a few of you know some of the activities we got up to, but you know, you get there. On one side, you just got a bunch of indie game developers all lined up, showing all their games off. There'd probably be about maybe a dozen and a half, or maybe of video developers just there with their consoles, maybe about 20.
Wow.
And you know, you just go by and you all talk to them.
That doesn't sound like a lot. I guess.
It probably was more than 20, actually.
Okay.
Come think about it. It could have been in its 40s.
You're the way you're saying it. It's like there were dozens of people, dozens of Australian gamers were there.
Oh, not gamers. No, there would be tens of thousands of people that went to that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're like.
See, that's what I think. Like tens of thousands, and then you've only got a dozen developers. It sounds like big lineups.
Yeah, well, everyone goes around to tables, and obviously you got a bunch of people playing Overwatch.
Okay.
With, you know, people trying to promote their brand and give out free goodies.
Oh, okay. Nice.
You've got Microsoft and Acer teaming up, and I got my hands on VR for the first time. So finally,
tell me about your experience with VR.
Cherry.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible, and I went on the budget one, which was actually mixed reality. So it's a lower resolution. I forgot what it was. It was like 1440, I think, pixels per eye. You got to see, so it was a bit pixelized, but I got to play super hot, and it's just incredible. You're just reaching out for these guns, and you're just aiming around, or you're throwing them. Like have you ever used VR, Matt?
I've played Super Hot regularly, and I've used VR to play the Lab, that Valve demo, and I played a frisbee golf game, and I love VR.
How'd you find that? Yeah,
I love it. I really love it. It's super immersive. I mean, it's a very clunky technology right now. Seems like something we might look back and be like, oh, it was so big and it looked kind of silly, and you had 4 wires coming out of the back of your head like you were jacking into the Matrix, and you needed a super powerful computer. But, you know, for something... So you were saying the 1440p, you could really tell that it was a little bit blurry? I mean, Super Hot
Well, the good thing about this one, though...
Yeah.
It runs on not crazy computers. They were saying that, you know, I've got a GTX 1060. They're saying you don't need that. This is, you know, it's obviously it's not as a higher resolution, but it's still nice. It's still immersive. It's still crazy. Plus, it's got cameras on it. It's not VR. It's not AR. It's mixed reality. So
wow.
In certain situations, maybe even a game developer, they can use, they could take in, you know, they could take in the background of what's going on. So someone could be in an office and bring up a virtual screen in their office, and it's phenomenal. And I think it was 800 AUD around that price. I think there was like a deal for 750 there at PAX. I don't know what that would be.
Do you know what Oculus is going for in AUDs?
Well, we're looking grands. We're in the Ks when we talk Oculus. So yeah, it's certainly the cheapest option. It's the option that will run the best on most computers. And Microsoft are pushing the hell out of this one.
Okay.
So obviously a lot of Microsoft support.
So was this the HoloLens then?
No, it wasn't HoloLens.
Oh, so they have their whole other mixed reality thing.
Mixed reality headset. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'm a little slow on the uptake here. This seems like a brand new concept you're throwing at me. This mixed reality.
It's the first time I've seen it. I don't know if you've ever seen people with this bright blue VR headset before. Never seen that one? Yeah, I think it's pretty new in the market. And seriously, like I'm sure a few people have watched someone play VR and just like, oh, yeah, it looks cool. You have to plug yourself into the Matrix. There's like watching someone being there compared to being in there yourself and actually firing guns and throwing them at people's head to make them explode. It's insane. It is.
Okay, so I'm looking at this Acer Windows mixed reality. So they've teamed up with Windows on it, and it is going for $600 Canadian. So, which is, and then just
you can buy a monitor for that price.
Yeah, well, a really freaking kick-ass monitor.
Kick-ass monitor, indeed. But
let's go. Okay, so just for comparison's sake, let's just see HTC Vive Canada buy. How much is that? So that is going for $800.
Big price difference, $200.
Yeah. Okay. But I think the Oculus Rift is actually
not more than the Vive?
No, I think they dropped that in price actually. So that one's going. See, yeah, that is actually just $529 in Canada now.
Cheaper.
And it comes with the touch system.
Wow.
And it's pretty solid. I think if you compare them directly, the Oculus is going to maybe be a little lacking compared to the Vive, but they're pressuring it. I mean, that's classic Microsoft, right? They go, well, if you can't beat them fairly, we'll just charge a lot less. Really quick, Charlie Line Guy, first thing he said in the stream was, hey, bud, hope you have a great stream. Hey, Charlie, I hope you have a great dream. Blaze Edge says, hello, with some shades. Alan Bloxham says, were all the new trailers that came out today from PAX? Also hi. Ha ha. So I guess he's talking about all the trailers that came out at the Sony show. That was a big thing that happened. A bunch of new trailers. I actually wanted to avoid them because I don't like how much trailers spoil. I know that you really shouldn't worry too much about spoiling with games, but I do. If it's a game I already know about, like The Last of Us Part 2, I don't need to see a trailer for that. Have you heard anything about this trailer? Apparently it was very, very disturbing. There's some disturbing moments with some brutal weapons being used. And apparently, what's her name? Ellie's like really ripped. Or people aren't sure whether it's Ellie or like Ellie's mom, Ellie's daughter or something.
Okay, we didn't know. I didn't come across the trailer. I only got to see actually a God of War trailer that they hadn't released at that point at PAX, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So I know nothing about Last of Us 2. I've watched a playthrough of the original one, so again, I don't necessarily need to see a trailer, but
I don't want to see it. It's such a story-driven game, such a story-driven franchise. I don't want to see any of those trailers. It's like with movies I want to watch. I never want to watch a trailer.
Especially Last of Us, though. Unless Last of Us 2 are overhauling the combat system and movement. Last of Us 1, the original Last of Us, if you slapped on a bad story onto that, that would be the worst game ever. It's such a clunky combat system. I can't believe they added multiplayer. I think in the
adding that was the most. That was the most like, this is what you do to make some money. And that was such a publisher decision. I really doubt Naughty Dog, who's obsessed with great stories, went like, oh yeah, and then we can really continue the story with awkward multiplayer. That'll really deliver this emotional impact. Yeah. So
I can understand co-op maybe, but trying to turn Last of Us into Call of Duty, that is laughable. That is honestly laughable.
Yeah. Actually, co-op would be a really great idea for that. Jeremy B says, hey, hello, Jeremy B. Thanks for joining us. Alan Bloxham says, I usually only shoot to look at gameplay trailers when... Oh, I see. That period was probably not meant to be there. I usually only shoot to look at gameplay trailers when looking to buy a game. Yeah, I remember... I'm older, so I came from a time when they started showing all these like really cinematic trailers, and everybody was really impressed with them at the time. And I remember being like, why would anybody want to see this? That told me nothing at all. The game's not going to look like that. When Final Fantasy VII was being super hyped up, they didn't show any gameplay trailers in any of the commercials. It was all the CGI because that was a really big deal at the time. That was the most expensive video game ever made at the time. They had basically Hollywood level CGI people putting all that thing together, and then when the game starts and you're playing with Lego characters.
Basically like 2 polygons per character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give Cloud 3, but we're going to have to take one away from Biggs and Wedge. Fenkin Dreamer says, hey, 90s, guess what? Guess what?
What?
That's a hard question.
Oh, you got us curious now.
What could it be? You tell us, and we won't guess.
Yeah, we're waiting patiently.
Anyway, so, all right, so PAX overall, is this worth going for an Australian gamer fan?
Well, when you go as media,
it's
free. Totally worth it.
Right. Totally worth $0.
Yeah, so just do some media. It's really good. But obviously we had to conduct interviews and stuff, so we did do a bit of that. But I think it was like 100, I forgot if it was 130 or 113 to go all 3 days. I think that's what I heard. So, you know, you got to put a bit of money in just to, you know, essentially go into a convention center with some demos that you're only going to get. You're going to have to wait 20 minutes for the big ones at least, and only get like a quick little playthrough on. You know? So I don't know. I think it depends on who you are. I really enjoyed my time. Would I do it for $130 and then on top plane tickets and all that? Probably not.
Yeah, and in a way, this is basically them promoting their stuff. So I don't understand why they're charging so much money for it. Like, they should be quite like the people that run these things, who are probably also charging all the developers a ton of money to have a booth space. They're laughing. They're like, yeah, come on in. The entertainment is all provided by these hardworking developers that are struggling and sacrificing, probably spent the last 2 weeks working 14-hour days so they could come up with a demo that's not even going to be representative of the final game, that they're all going to throw that code away. Like, I've heard that those demos are almost always, from the indie guys and girls, are probably fairly honest. I don't think they have time to mess around with that, but like when you see those big publisher demos on a game that isn't due to be out for another year, they just cheat to like nail it all together. It'll hold together and it'll work, but that's probably not something they can like plug back into the game, the foundation of that code. So they just like chuck all that out and they're like, all right, back to work in the actual game, guys. Thanks for missing all your kids' birthdays. And that was a great E3. We had a great E3. Remember when we were on stage talking about how excited we are for the future of community and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know if I'd pay $130. The last one I went to was one in Toronto called the Enthusiast Gaming Show. We also had some media passes, and it was fine. You know, it's people trying to sell you stuff. So I don't quite see, unless you're going to see something beforehand. But the thing is, there's such great coverage of it now where you have, like, if you're going to watch E3 or something, you have a way better chance to cover it from here, from your house, streaming it, because you see it before everybody else. Like, you're not, you don't have to run to the next room. You know, you have it all in your hands. So I don't know. I guess it's super fun if you do get some hands-on with some new games. The thing I liked about going to the One Expo though was that I played games I would never ever play. So that was pretty interesting to me. Like I played this one. It was like a 4v4 sort of like top-down spaceship shooter with different classes of ships, and it was kind of like almost sporty, where you're trying to like get the ball to their end or shoot them or kill them, and kind of like a really like a 2D Rocket League in a way. And that was super, super fun. And they had set up like 10 computers so everybody could sit down and have a big old LAN party. And that's a game I've never heard of since, and I'd never heard of before, and that was about 2 years ago. So maybe it came out and just flopped, because the thing is, the indie market is so saturated, and you might work your ass off for 5 years on an indie game, which is what I want to ask you coming up after I keep rambling, is and then you want to put that game out that day, but Sony really wanted the new Spider-Man to come out that day, And you're not going to get any. You're not going to be on that front page. You're not getting on that PSN store. It's going to be Spider-Man and then whatever movie Sony thinks that people are going to buy from them. Like, so, anyways, you had said that you talked to some indie producers, and you said that was kind of an eye opener.
Well, yeah, like, you know, rather than dealing with the microtransaction greedy EA, we ended up talking to someone named Brian. Who's from yeah, nice name, Brian. Good fella. But you know, he works for a company, and they just find indie games that are heavily story driven. They had one game which was like a cyberpunk dating simulator type thing. Like, it was
it called, Valhalla?
So weird. I think it might have been, actually.
Do you work as a bartender?
Yeah, I think that's it, actually. I think you work as a bartender.
Oh, that's his game.
That's his game. So I didn't get any hands on with that, but we had a talk to him, and he, you know, I think with indie producers, it's kind of interesting. Like, I think we were talking about earlier, you know, you look at the big producers, it's just a boardroom with a bunch of people thinking about money. But
sure,
with these little studios, like production studios, they're out there because of passion. It's not just mutual benefit. They honestly just love gaming, and they just see that game looks sick, guys. Let's organize. We'll organize the funding. We'll get the sound. We'll organize, you know, the voice recordings for characters and stuff. And it's just great because it just gives indie games someone that they can rely on. That's also indie and got the same passion, the same styles. They're not obsessed over microtransactions. They just do the marketing for them. They do all that stuff rather than like, you look at so many games, or, you know, the music scene as well. It's hard to write music, to do shows and stuff, and you're the one having to do all the marketing for yourself, for your own for your own games. You have to do, and it's a nightmare for a team of indie devs that all they should really be doing and what they just want to do is make a quality game, and it puts a lot of stress. And that's what I really loved about seeing an indie producer. It's the first one I've ever met. I don't know how frequent or how, you know, rarefied that sort of area is, but no, it was really great.
Yeah, no, that's brings up the fact that we had heard earlier a couple weeks ago that EA shut down Visceral Studios, and that they were canning Amy Hennig's Star Wars single-player game, or they were totally going to rework it, and that they had. What we had heard was the company line of, we want to get more in touch with what our testing audience is looking for. We're looking for games as a service, and that basically means if you liked Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and you wanted a single-player game, if you wanted Uncharted as Star Wars, EA didn't care. EA wanted games that they can keep selling you, things that you're going to keep coming back to. They looked at the numbers. They know that mobile games make the most money, that have microtransactions, that have loot boxes. They don't want to spend that much money on a game you're going to play once and maybe never play again, because to them, that's nothing. So, anyways, Kotaku, who's just probably the best reporting gaming website.
Well, Alan just said, could you raise my voice just a tiny bit?
Already on it.
Oh, already. Look at Matt go. He's a genius, this one. Sorry, back Kotaku.
Yeah, no problem. So Kotaku did a little digging, and they were talking, I think it was Schreier, got the story from a lot of different Visceral devs, and it was a nightmare for the longest time. There were problems with Amy Hennig, because when Amy Hennig was at Naughty Dog, she was in charge of story and was given a lot of autonomy, but they also had a gameplay designer with her so that they could kind of translate her ideas and be able to talk to the techs, you know, talk to the nerds with her and translate her story ideas that way. She didn't have that here. She didn't have enough support. They also had to clear everything with Disney about anything they wanted to do in Star Wars. So instead of just saying, like, we should put a hat on him, that'll look cool, that's like 2 months of emails with Disney. And they're like, well, we don't know if a smuggler character would wear a hat. So we need to think about it.
Make sure you remove those eyebrows, Matt. Make sure you remove those eyebrows.
Yeah, get rid of them all. So
reference. Oh, sorry. I'm just referencing how, you know, in the re-release of which is the one where Darth Vader, the last Phantom Pain, I think it is. Isn't that last Star Wars?
Uh, Revenge of the
well,
Jedi? Revenge of the
Revenge of the
Sith?
Sith might be the one where you actually see Darth Vader's face and Luke's talking to him.
Oh, no,
They
Return
actually
of the Jedi, yeah.
CGI'd.
Oh,
they CGI'd
okay, I
out
see.
his eyebrows. So,
Yeah.
sorry, this is a stupid reference. Why did I take 10 seconds to explain that?
No, that's
Continue.
fine. So, yeah, so that was a big problem. EA Visceral Studios was never that big of a studio enough to take on a game of the size. They had been working on a different kind of Star Wars game that was going to be like an open world, more of like a ships and fleets kind of thing in space. And then Amy Hennig was like, no, I want it to be like Uncharted. I want to do a smuggler story. Her story idea was great, taking place in between the first and second Star Wars. I'm not talking about the new trilogy, the old trilogy. And you would basically play as a smuggler, like a Han Solo type, and working your way through that system. But the problem was they had to now change a lot of things over. EA also forces them to use the Frostbite engine, which we saw with Andromeda was a huge problem because it's great for Battlefield, but it's not great for anything else. And it means you have to build all this custom stuff on top of it. And also where they have their studio in San Francisco, it's like 3 times as expensive for them to get any developers. So EA wouldn't hire anybody else, even though they needed them. They said, well, we'll just start up another studio and we'll have them help you. But then they needed to bring that studio to work on the Battlefront campaign. So it was just everybody was stretched thin. EA wanted too much for too little. Nobody had what they needed, and it just wasn't working out. And they said morale was low. It was terrible. There were some philosophical differences too. Where did you see the demo at all? There's like it's the shortest demo in the world. It's like a 5-second demo of this new Amy Hennig game, and it's a smuggler sort of stepping out of a hut on like Tatooine, and there's ships going by, and he sort of touches a door, and some of the developers are saying we had to spend so much time on the way his hand would touch the door, and they're like, what are you talking about? This isn't even like a playable part of the game. But Amy Hennig's like, no, it's got to look real. It's got to look so real. And that was one of those things where they just make these demos that you basically throw away. They're fake. So that's sort of the extra bit of the story that came out, and that's to bring it around back to what you brought up. I think that if EA and the other ones keep going this route, then I think we're going to see not just even more of a rise of the indie developers, but I think there's going to be this new mid-tier that comes out where I would gladly pay somebody $40 to give me a short game, like 5 hours, 8 hours. I spent almost $20 to go watch a 2-hour movie. I would spend $40 to play a 5 or 6 hour game. I know those ratios don't line up, but I'm trying to get more bang for my buck and be done with it. And that'd be fine. Like I paid $20 for Firewatch, and I played it for 2 evenings and I loved it. And that experience stuck with me. And, you know, I was eavesdropping at Starbucks because I forgot to give me headphones, and I had to listen to all the other humans, which I hate. But there was this guy, and he was saying he has a kid now and he doesn't have time to do anything else. I'm like, I bet you he would love a Nintendo Switch and 5-hour games. It'd be great.
I prefer as you said, it feels like a piece. You sit down there, a couple of nights, and once you complete it, it's a smile on your face every time. And
you know what it's like? It's like an affair. It's like not an affair like you're cheating on somebody, but it's like a passionate. I don't want to use any words here. It's just like not to get too in detail. It's not like a long-term relationship. You know,
it's like having sex. No,
yeah. It's like you just kind of have it. You think each other are great the whole time. You don't see any of the problems or the weaknesses.
It's like young love,
young love, puppy love.
Infatuation of, it's
like
brief.
It's like when you get a kitten. You get a kitten and you love this kitten. It's so cute, but then it's
later you hate it.
Yeah, like we've got this kitten and it's so cute, and then it like poops in your plants, and you go, "That's disgusting. You're disgusting."
If it pooped in the plants in the first couple of days, you overlook it. It's cute. It's pooping in the plants. Who cares? But I don't know where we're going.
Well, that's with the game. But once you have to be now, okay. For example, like if I have a game and the publisher's like, "Look, we need to pad this game out. It needs to be 50 hours long. That means I want you to add 10 side quests." And since I'm not going to give you any time to make any more assets, that means you have to use things in the game. So that means go here, talk to that character, bring back 10 items we've already created so we don't have to use any more. Bring it back there. Come up with a reason why it's necessary, but don't take too long doing it because I need you on multiplayer next week.
Yeah, I hate fetch quests. That's why I hate Shadowrun. But
Did you try to play it?
no, I haven't.
Oh,
I was
you
just trying to
assume.
trigger you.
Trigger me. Oh my god. What are you, alt-right? Anyways, so that's our talk about publishers and games. I wanted to ask you, how many Final Fantasy games have you played?
Started playing 15. I can't play it now because I'm not at home. But yeah, I've been playing 15. So I'm a noob.
You're a very noob. But you were there in our Final Fantasy X stream. And I was so impressed. We got to that final boss, and it's my favorite when we can't beat a boss and we have to come up with strategies. And you were right there, like, cast Curaja, cast this one, heal.
Well, it's such an awesome system. Like, obviously, there's a few like little UI changes and stuff that could do with an overhaul. But yeah, like watching you play that, you're really bad. So someone's got to learn how to. No.
I make that's my plan, is I always make every mistake and then I'll learn.
That's how I learned. But no, like it's I just personally felt that Final Fantasy X's combat system was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But it just worked in such an elegant way in how they introduced certain puzzles, and you couldn't use one mechanic for the same boss. One technique for the same boss, or maybe for a couple, but some bosses were immune to poison, but would be affected by other things. But that particular boss, you'd poison it, it'd have two things. I'm spoiling stuff. Oh, I'll stop. Sorry, Luigi, man. But anyhow, it was just wicked, and I don't know. I picked it up on your stream. So much fun. But it's like Pokemon strategy. That counters that. Chess, that piece will counter that. I don't know.
I know exactly. And what I really like about it too is that it's because from Final Fantasy 4 to 9, we had an active time battle system. So you would queue up your actions, and then they would kind of get to their action, but you couldn't tell on the fly who was going to be striking first. So you needed to, and you had to act fast or you would lose your initiative there. Whereas this one is like, you could just sit there for hours, be like, but what do I do? Because you know everything coming up. So you go, should I waste their turn using an item or healing or attacking? Do I have enough time to get in a couple of hits? Will that next one kill me? So it's just, what is the best thing about RPGs is how everything interacts. All of those items, how Reflect will attack theirs, and just that person's magic defense versus their thing, elemental weaknesses. It's what makes Pokemon great. It's what makes Persona's combat great, and it's what made Final Fantasy X's combat so great. And now I was
the most thoughtful combat Final Fantasy game out there.
I think so, actually, because 13 is fun, but it's so fast. It's almost like a real-time version of turn-based, and it's awesome, but it's also very it doesn't quite have this, and especially when we're playing on stream with a bunch of people chatting, it's something you can play socially, which is pretty great. Alan Bloxham says, I think he meant to say I love how you can, but it came out as I love you. Can always learn new yeah, we love you. Can always learn new things in the FF combat. I've played like 130 hours in 13, and I just learned something today that could majorly help me. Tell me what you learned today, Alan Bloxham.
Territory. Fun.
Oh, yeah, yes. Please don't spoil us, though. See if you can handle without spoiling. All right. Super Mario Odyssey. I think a lot of people on it. Yeah.
I'm curious about. So I don't know if everyone knows Matt's opinion. You've played it. So I've only seen you play it a couple of times, and you were saying that it wasn't fast, and you loved how obviously Mario 64 you could get from A to B super quick, super small maps.
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey, massive maps, and they've lowered down the movement. So that's one bit of a nag that you originally had. We'll see where this is going. Another issue you had, obviously Mario 64 focused on all these platforming mechanics in certain sections where particular jumps and particular, flips and stuff would work in different areas. But, come to Odyssey, your movement, that's only a tiny part of the game. Everything's almost like mini games where you have to interact, chuck your hat onto a dinosaur, control that to do a certain thing. So Where do you stand now? What's your opinion now, Matt?
Well, I gave it I got into a level and I didn't want to progress it anymore because I wanted to keep the progression to the stream, but I just started playing around with his moveset. And even though I'm not a huge fan of when he like the novelty of, okay, now you're a dinosaur and you have these different controls just for a small bit is okay for me. But the more you find, I see where the uses are with that. It's what I love the most is that Cappy is this movable platform. So you can jump up in the air. Here's my favorite move. You do a long jump, just like from Mario 64. You throw that hat. Then you dive onto that hat. And then you bounce off that hat. And then you dive again. And it's just this. The thing I love about it is that you're still using Mario's core movements. You are just extending the app. You're just extending the application in which you can use them, which is where I was thinking about this. Instead of me putting a hat on a T-Rex and becoming a slow, clumsy T-Rex who controls nothing like Mario, or a slow Goomba that controls nothing like Mario, why don't they make it so that if you possess a T-Rex, you are now really, really strong and you can maybe jump higher, or maybe you can't jump, but you're super strong and you can like ram into things or you can eat them, but keeping it the same, you know? Or if you took over a frog, it's the same jump, it's just a lot higher. So I don't mind that as much. And it is fun to like possess a bullet bill and fly around, or you can possess like a rocket launcher or something like that. But that hat, that platforming hat is so perfectly done and so geniusly done. Because the flood was neat, but the flood really slowed Mario down because it just became a slow float. Whereas the hat, he never changes that speed. It's just another platform you have. So I can see that being really, really difficult to go back and play without. And then I found another level that was a very 64 or like 3D world, very linear obstacle course. I heard somebody describe it as, and it's you actually throw your hat on this thing to make a bridge and you don't get the hat anymore, which kind of sucked, but it made it very, very difficult. And it really forced me to learn all the different tricks of those moves. That in 64, you long jumped everywhere because you got that big boost, that big flying butt thing he would do. But in this one, he's got this dive that will not only propel him forward, but it gives him just this little extra boost. And what I love about that is that if say you do a jump and you're like, I'm not going to make it, I'm just this bit short, that little dive that makes no sense with physics will just get you that little bit thing up, you know, a little bit over, which is basically like the wall jump. The wall jump is there so that if you missed a jump, you're going to hit the wall anyway. You can at least maybe try to leap off, and you can incorporate the dolphin dive, I'm going to call it now, to like get out of trouble. So there's a lot of ways you can combine his movements that are very, very intuitive, that feel really good. It feels so good to control Mario in this, and it encourages a lot of exploration. In the same way Breath of the Wild was all about exploration and what can you do, this one is like that. Now these levels are way, like you said and I'd said, they're way bigger than 64. 64 was more of an obstacle course with a bit of sandbox. This is a huge open sandbox level. There's a lot of secrets to play with, and because Mario was so fun to control, it stays fun. And because they don't necessarily give it away, they just kind of say, oh, that looks odd, why don't you try that? And as I'm getting a little bit more into it, I realize that it's going to get harder. So I was a little harsh on it in the beginning, but it's really growing on me now.
It's growing on me. That's awesome. Would you? So I like how you're like describing, like obviously you'd have the dinosaurs or the big ground creatures that would roam around. Do you feel like it's laid out where you'd have, like with the controlling section, you'd have different tiers? Like you'd have like the big animals that are strong. You'd have Mario, which is like the platformer, and you'd have even higher jumping. And like how are they sort of structured, or is it just like separate little mini games every time you chuck a hat on a dinosaur? There's only one objective to do with it.
Well, like, I mean, they don't necessarily give you. Well, they kind of do in the beginning because they want to teach you everything with that. So generally, like you come up on something, like there's a part that I'm showing behind us that you can't see, but it's me coming up in this water level where you need to jump higher. So they show you a frog, you put the hat on the frog, and now you can jump higher. And then when you first control a T-Rex, there's an area where you need to bash through something. So they're teaching you that the T-Rex is going to be able to bash through things. And then I'm assuming that they're going to have these sort of secondary and third objectives might be hidden, where combining those in a certain way. There's like in 64, they would do a great job of showing you something and then sort of daring you to get to it. And they take that so much further here, where there's a lot of mysterious things you can see, but you cannot end up, you can't figure out how to get to. Sorry, I just realized that I have the old chat and the new chat totally overlaid on each other.
I was like looking at it. There's two mats right now. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Could you just make an extra me with that?
Yeah. Infinity
just drag
causes.
me over to your head and then you sweep. Oh wait.
All right, that looks a little better. So it's and with that you can try to reach new areas, but I don't think that is super necessary. I think the Cappy just on his own being a platform is great, but there's other things like you can. I don't want to give them away. But I guess the part that I'm not super, while it's not super overwhelmed with, is that while it's neat that you can put the hat on things and experiment and try these different things, it's still
gimmicky.
It's gimmicky, and it is, and that can seem like a very insulting word to say, but it is, because it controls so differently a lot of the time. Like you are a slow Goomba or you're like a slow frog. I mean, the frog suit in Mario 3 made him a lot slower, and it's not great unless you're swimming. And it's fun for him to jump higher, but why not just give Mario the ability that he can just be himself, but he can jump higher? Maybe they wanted to keep the physics universal so that you didn't ever get confused with how Mario was controlling, but I don't know. There's a whole lot more game to play with me chucking hats on
What do you
things.
think about power-ups and thinking them more so as power-ups rather than, the way to interact with a particular game? Like, as you said, the Mario 3 outfit, would you call that gimmicky?
No, because when you have the raccoon tail, the main benefit of it, flying, is him jumping and then just kind of having an extended jump. And then when he falls, that's the main benefit of the raccoon tail, is that you can hammer the jump button so that he falls slower. So it's still the same, like physics and angles.
Core mechanics is underneath that.
Yeah.
It's good, but you feel like the way that here's Mario, screw Mario, get rid of him, we'll create a completely new asset with its own physics, own movement.
Yeah.
Rather just focusing on one ability, like maybe the frog suit is maybe they should just had suits in the end. It's basically Mario, but instead jumps higher and swims faster.
Yeah, that's what I would have liked if they just maybe kept it a bit more. If they just kept it in line with what he was doing, just like how Cappy becomes a platform and it's the same, rather than changing it on so much. But I mean, they're trying something new, and maybe there's people that really like that idea of like, I get to control like a T-Rex here. I
liked it in Banjo.
Okay.
That was always fun, where you transformed into certain enemies. Like I remember Banjo-Tooie, probably my favorite, was a snowball. Okay. So there was this like map that had a cold side and a hot side, and you could become a snowball on the cold side. And the cold side, if you rolled into cold areas, your snowball would get bigger. If you rolled if you went into the hot side, the lava side, you'd slowly start to melt and get smaller. And so there'd be sections where you have to race around really quickly before you shrunk and died, and then there'd be other sections where, I'm not going to fit through that gap, and I need to be a snowball. There's a fire over there. I'm going to have to shrink myself. And I don't know. It's probably one of the most gimmicky ones, but I guess I didn't mind it too much, especially when it's, used in many ways. I feel like it should be utilized better. The biggest gimmicky thing about Banjo ever was Mumbo. He is basically Banjo. Remove all of Banjo's abilities where Banjo could use Kazooie to fly or jump a bit higher. Mumbo would just jump, and all Mumbo was good for is to get to a certain platform where he could use his magic spell, so Banjo could go back there and interact with the spell he's done. So, it's almost that was the most gimmicky thing they've ever done, I reckon. So I don't know. I guess there's sort of two sides to it, but you don't think having all these different animals that you can control or enemies, you don't think that just opens up the world in brand new ways with.
That is actually, yeah, that's a good point, and it's what I was thinking is that because these levels are so large and you spend a lot of time backtracking and experimenting, I think that's where this works, where this kind of breathes a new life into the level. If you're going to be in the same area and you're exploring, then kind of changing up the moveset a lot more makes that experience fresh again. And I think that actually is where this makes the most sense. If this was designed in a smaller, more linear way, like maybe Galaxy's size of levels or 64 like 3D World, then I think it would stick out a lot more that you change it up and you have a different feel. But because these levels are huge and they're designed to be experimented with and played with, and the more time that I've spent in, then it almost becomes a little bit, I'm seeing how it could become refreshing to, like, I don't want to be Mario now. I want to like hop onto this other animal and flip out. And because you spend a lot of time just like looking at things, especially because I was trying not to progress past this level, that I'd collected enough moons to go to the next one, but I want to save that for the stream. So I'm just messing around.
Yep.
And I found tons of extra moons in like really fun, entertaining ways. And I'll tell you, just sitting in a truck waiting for my girlfriend to get off work with my trusty Switch, I smiled, just sat there smiling to myself many times, like, that was cute. That was fun. That was neat. That was cool. I didn't think that was going to happen.
So quick, I don't know, week one, mid-quarterway playthrough review. What would you give it right now, Matt? I'm curious.
Well, I think, like, I mean, like even a bad Mario game is going to be at least like an 8 out of 10, which is my least favorite gaming score because it tells you nothing. But I definitely, at first I was like, there's no way it's a 10. And then I'm like, maybe not even a 9. But I think it's getting up there a little more. And as I uncover more of its secrets, and the true test will be as you keep going and you keep exploring, does it stay compelling? Are there enough things to do? And I mean, my favorite review system has always been buy it, try it, or leave it alone. And it's always going to be a buy it. So the longer I play, the better it's getting, which I think is a really good sign.
It might be a bit like Final Fantasy 13, where the tutorial was this big, and then in this, maybe you're still in the tutorial stages, Matt. Maybe that's why they're using gimmicks. Maybe it would feel less gimmick.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Actually, because they're just trying to introduce everything really fast, and also give you a challenge that lets you learn how to do it without it being too difficult.
Yeah.
So I can see that.
The best first levels are always linear, I think, with most game development. I don't think they should always. You should always know exactly 120% know where you're going when you're
because you don't want to lose that momentum. And I think you're totally right about that, because as I keep going, I think you're going to get into instances where they just give you a few options and then they sort of test you, like, all right, now you figure it out, smart guy. You think
so? That's almost like Breath of the Wild type situation.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of those kind of vibes.
There's a massive river. How do I approach it?
Yeah.
I use a frog suit? Do I find, I don't know, a bear that can knock down trees? Like, I'm obviously bringing Mario Odyssey into the mix of things. Like,
smoothly.
Like,
no, I
guess it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I'm getting a lot of those Breath of the Wild vibes. There's even that same like piano riff that happens like when you discover something in Breath of the Wild, something curious, like they do that. And I think that they are going for that. And I was really hoping that they would, in a way. So it's a bit more of a grower than I expected, but it's already starting to grow me more. And the game looks phenomenal as well.
That's sick. I wonder if they'll ever do something with Square Enix again and bring back Mario RPG and make it platform based as well.
Good.
But yeah. So another question I've got. Obviously got Mario 64 worlds, Mario Odyssey worlds. What's the size difference? How many 64 worlds could I fit into one Odyssey world?
Oh, one painting? One painting you could fit like maybe some of the bigger, like maybe 4 or 5 of the bigger ones. But there is also, like, for example, this desert scene that's up now. There's a lot of open space that, like, they could have made it a bit denser.
Yeah.
That's
actually what I love about older games. They were limited to such a small space where they had to utilize every aspect for fun platforming. I am looking to that right now.
Yeah, because
sorry, continue.
Well, the older Mario games were a bit more of, and what I love about 2D Mario games is that they're an obstacle course. You're running through and you're constantly presented with challenges. And 64 was a little more sandboxy. The GameCube version, Sunshine, was a lot more open. Galaxy turned it down and made it more of an obstacle course, whereas this one is trying to do both, and I think it does it really, really well. So, they're a lot bigger in size, and then in terms of what you can actually do on them, they are probably like 2 or 3 times bigger in terms of what you can do, where they have sort of 3, at least in this level, for example, there's maybe like 3 different settlements, like here's the ruins, here's the village, but they're also connected in interesting ways. Here's another thing they take from Zelda: they let you warp to and from in the level. You just open up your map, and any of those little flags you get, like those Super Mario World sort of flags, they even make the same sound when you pass through that halfway point in a Super Mario World level. It goes like wing. So you hit those, you can warp at any time. So
actually, that's one feature I really loved when I was playing the demo. When I was at the EB Games Expo, not PAX, one prior to this one. Yeah, is this the first game where you can warp to places? First Mario game?
I think so.
It will be. I think, man, it's a very welcome feature. I guess each settlement almost feels like a level in its own. We're calling it settlement structures.
They do. Yeah, they do feel like their own little their own kind of tiny hub in that way. So it's it's a heck of a game, and I think it's getting better and better. It's a game that will slowly reveal its secrets, and I'll be streaming it tomorrow morning. Well, there you go. Alan Bloxham very skillfully, and I'm sorry we're taking so long to get to this, Alan, but we asked him about what was the thing that he learned in 13, and he said, I learned how to implement their ultimate abilities optimally for each character. And we asked him to do this without spoiling anything, and I think he went ultra incognito mode.
Very nice.
That's a great thing about Final Fantasy games, is that when you beat them, they already take a long enough time to beat, but if you really want to keep grinding up those characters, there's rewards for that. There's extra abilities, there's extra weapons, there's ultimate baddies. It's the best. All right, any interesting games you've been playing lately? You've been messing around with like different free games you can play multiplayer with people on the PC that might not have a great PC or great internet.
Yeah.
Tell me about Trove.
Trove? Well, basically...
Or no, sorry.
It's like...
Orcs Must Die.
Orcs Must Die? Oh, it's like a... It's first person? It's... Okay, you basically got a cartoony... I think it's first person shooter, is it? Or it might be third or first person. I cannot remember. Mm-hmm. I've got the memory of a sieve. It just goes straight in and comes straight out the bottom.
Okay.
But it's basically a tower defense game. So you got your tower. You can play with you and 2 other friends, so 3 people. And you get orcs that come out of these areas, and the whole game's kind of gridlocked, and you can place traps down, and you have to stop all the orcs from getting to your basically, I don't know what it's, your rift, I think it's called. And it's quite fun. You know, free to play. There is microtransactions. That's obviously how to get money. And you can buy items with money, which is obviously a bit dodgy, but it hasn't affected our gameplay because it's not a multiplayer online game. I actually think transactions that give you an edge, if they're not competitive or they're not MMO, don't hurt too much. Like, it's kind of annoying. You got your mate that has played for 2 hours and has $1 million up his sleeve and has just bought absolutely everything. But I don't know. It's not bad. At least they're making their money, and it's a game that's accessible for most people. I was running the game fine while mining bitcoins on my computer. Or not bitcoins, a different type of cryptocurrency which eats up a ton of graphics card on its lower settings. So I'd say it works on most budget rigs.
Judging from the trailer I'm looking at, it looks pretty. Look, they have a bit of a sense of humor. Oh, he was correcting you, saying it was third person, not first person.
Third. Okay. So you got the worst memory, Corey. Okay, don't judge. But it's a cool game. Not all the characters shoot. Some do melee. Set down traps, spikes, set them on fire. You could customize your trap by, like, I've got this wall trap. So you got wall, ceiling, and ground traps. I've got this ground trap that sets enemies on fire, so they walk across, get set on fire. And then I've got this arrow trap, which I found a fire gem, and I think it's like a gemstone or something, and I put it inside the trap. So now when enemies are on fire, my arrow trap does 30% extra damage on them. So there's little tactical things. But I think it's just fun to sit down with a couple of friends and just work together, I guess.
Well, because co-op is in a tower defense is great, because tower defense is all about time management.
Yeah.
And is about multitasking. And then when you try to multitask in conjunction with other people, that's I think a really interesting concept. It's like what makes Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time really interesting, is that, you know, you're in that game, you're flying a ship. There's 4 or 5 things you need to control: shields, guns, the engine, something else. But when you're trying to do it with 2 people and then talk at the same time, is I think pretty interesting. That trailer that I saw has no actual gameplay, so I'm gonna try and find some gameplay to show it off. Fortunately, I have to look at IGN's video, but there you go, IGN.
No, guys, we're giving this game an 8 out of 8. IGN.
8 out of 8.
Drop the big 8.
An 8 out of 8 out of 8 out of 10s.
8 out of. Yeah, there you go. That's Look, I just saw in the window beside me. Lockie's dad, Dark Horse's dad, just made his debut in the stream.
Oh, hey, all right. Just a third Cosgrove.
Third Cosgrove. There you go.
While we're in the DIY generation, my friend, everybody's everywhere. Everything has been seen.
What about you, though? I'm sure there's been another game, or has it just been moves with Mario Odyssey? I'm sure you've been playing something else on the side. You're not telling me that.
I played a bit of. When I got the Switch, I was told to download the VOES demo, and also the demo for Octopath Traveler.
Don't know anything about these 2 games.
Well, VOES is probably a game not many people are going to be familiar with. This is a very Asian rhythm game. So you put your Switch tablet down flat and you play it like a piano with these, like, basically, you know, the note highways of, say, a Guitar Hero game. There's about 6 of them. So you're playing them all over the place, like, and they're all like J-pop songs, like really over the top ballads, pop ballads. But the production is pretty nice, and it was super, super fun. And it's a game that I might even pay for if I could hear the songs in advance. But I love rhythm games. We're both musicians. They're always fun to play. So download the VOES demo on Lockie's Switch. Give it a try. And then there is Octopath Traveler. This is a game they showed off, I think, at E3 or a Nintendo Direct or something. And this is
Octopath, right?
Octopath, like eight ways, 8 paths.
8 ways.
Traveler.
Okay.
Now this is a game that is, if you like 16-bit RPGs, it looks glorious.
Octopath got it. 8 directions of movement. Is that why?
Yes, it's such a gorgeous game, gorgeous lighting, sprite-based characters in sort of a 3-dimensional world. It kind of looks like you're kind of zooming in on someone, like somebody built this thing out of arts and crafts and then lit it beautifully, and now you're controlling these characters in the world. I was really just trying to see what the gameplay was like, and I found the opening story was extremely long, and I was not in the mood to listen to. I feel like games should not start off with too much story before you play, because I don't care about them until I've played with them. You know?
I totally agree. It's pretty crazy because you got these bunch of indie developers, and maybe they start with some game mechanics, and they just feel like, oh, I got an amazing story to tell.
Exactly.
And, you're just tapping the A button, feeling bad. You feel guilty because some people have built this world or this lore. But you just want to get your hands on with the game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think the best way to start the game off is almost bang. There's a gunshot. Get playing. I don't know if you want to Destiny do it, where you're just playing the game, shooting, and all these crazy environments. And
true.
Oh, Uncle Steve, everyone! Hey, Uncle Steve, welcome to the stream. One dab, left-handed dab.
Uncle Steve.
Not Uncle Steve. He's a good bugger, Uncle Steve.
Wouldn't it be great if Uncle Steve came up and he just said, actually, what I find in the beginning frame of most games is that they are incorrectly connecting and failing at engagement. And then he dabs and he says, you guys are a bunch of nerds. And he leaves.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I think that, like, okay, with a movie, I don't want to see them get into action possibly until I've seen why I should care. But with a game, I think the whole point of it is that gameplay. And until I've
Unless you
controlled them,
interact with the story, unless you are controlling the story.
yeah,
Like, I think that's what people love about Telltale games, because they feel like they're controlling the story.
right. But we know Telltale is
big fan
in a
of Telltale.
diamond. You get a bunch of choices, but the end is it's always going to be the
It's
same.
always the same.
We all got the same sad ending in The Walking Dead season 1. Have you played Tales of the Borderlands?
I haven't. I started playing because I think on Halloween a couple of years back, Walking Dead was out for free on Xbox. So I did download that, but I only played a little bit and lost interest. But no,
Really?
Borderlands, Tales of the Borderlands, was that really good?
It's the funniest video game I've ever played. So I think you might like it. I think you're a funny guy. It's hilarious.
I'm not. I'm actually really serious, man. I take everything seriously.
Well, okay then. Let's talk about this more serious game. Like Everything, the philosophy game. It's very serious. You get to be a tree. It's kind of like Mario Odyssey, except a lot slower. You are a tree or a bear or a pebble or a star, and you feel what it is to be everything. It's a real game.
Real game.
We already talked about
it. Really called the philosophy game?
No, but that's just a good way to describe it, because it's narrated entirely by this by like audio recordings of this really famous philosopher.
Oh wow!
While
That's
you
kinda
just
interesting.
pretend to be a bear. You don't pretend you are. You are a freaking bear.
You are the bear. You are the bear.
Hmm.
That sounds like 10 out of 10. It's 8 out of 8, mate. IGN. Okay. It's 8, 8. I rate 8 out of 8, 8. That's how we do it here. I don't know, I'm just kidding.
I think that's going to be just about it. That's what we've been doing.
I think that's all the topics. Unless there's something that you guys would like us to cover, is there anything that's big on the news that we haven't really touched on?
We talked about EA Visceral. We didn't really want to get into too many of these trailers because I don't want to spoil some games moving forward. Alan told us about Final Fantasy 13. We didn't talk about Trove.
No, Trove's another multiplayer game that we've just been playing. Actually, if anyone's new here, pop in our Discord. We've got a channel for multiplayer meetup. Pop in there and suggest any free multiplayer games that you have that can be run on a potato so all of us can play. Mm-hmm. Preferably. But
I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah, that's us. No one's got anything to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
COZI,
right.
Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Matt.
You can find us on the what were you gonna say there, my friend?
You were scaring Corey. Is Trove any good? Trove. So Trove's a free player. It's free to play. It's sort of like, imagine Minecraft. Minecraft's world. There are mining mechanics, but it's mostly decorative or like items that will last you forever, like a dragon or something. But it's mostly about you scroll around the world. There's a bunch of players online, and you find a dungeon. You go inside the dungeon, you kill the boss, get the loot, and then get out of the dungeon and go to another dungeon. It's fun for the first few hours. Mm-hmm. Depending on who you are, you might end up like Blaze and end up making a crazy, crazy temple. Or you might wait till someone else plays it with you that's a similar level.
Corey said he installed it. Once he found out he needed another Triton account on top of Steam, deleted it.
You don't need. You can just also download it through Steam. I don't know why that's such an issue. To play Orcs Must Die, you needed a second account. You don't need Steam to run it, so I don't know if that really should be an issue. It's pretty easy to create your Triton account. So I'd give it another.
Pirate King played it once, was alone, and couldn't think of anything to do.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. I think it's a type of game. Bunch of people need to start off at the same level and explore together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to be it. I'll be back here tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time with some Mario Odyssey. Who knows? Maybe COZI will be here too, but that's quite late in the Probably not
See
going
what
to
happens.
That was
Probably not.
that was a very non-committal. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
well,
a yeah. I'm not going to make
well, I'm
that.
not at home, and
Yeah.
we got Uncle Steve. You know, if I'm going to have internet, I don't have internet where I'm staying currently at my grandmother's house.
Oh,
if I'm
okay.
going to have internet, Uncle Steve's bedtime's like it's 7:30.
Right.
Rather than keeping the house awake with my
You'll be in a
loud
closet
antics.
whispering, "Oh, this
Yep.
is so exciting."
It's free jazz. But some people might get that joke I just made there.
There
But
you go.
anyhow,
Join the
thank
Discord.
you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it. Bye for now.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.